okay, I can't leave it out. It's Joy Division, and it's an even older graffiti. You know, in a period, in an age when the graffiti was absolutely controlled and not allowed and banned, some guy wrote this Joy Division there, and this was there for another, even longer than the striptease. I also wanted, because this was the other alternative that either the striptease or this. And you know, Joy Division was a punk rock group, but Joy Division, they took the name, the Joy Division, of a person who was a survivor of the Holocaust, and in the English terminology, Joy Division was that squad of prisoners who had to entertain the Nazis, like musicians and other different ways. So this Joy Division had this origin, and I already said that I'm really interested in the changes of the context, and I consider it as a very important aspect of art, that since we keep an art piece as an object, and as an object it can survive its own lifespan, and through restoration it could be ready for new interpretations and new contexts. And probably the context of the band Joy Division is long time forgotten. I don't know, but I guess. And even that reference, and it would be so beautiful to put it back and leave it there, because some people later, some future context could be developed. Okay. Soon I will switch to another piece, but I can't really. Sorry, I must leave it because I would like to talk another piece. Yes. Very shortly. In 2004, the Ludwig Museum organized an exhibition, the first so-called big public art exhibition, and it was a very smart approach of this. Because the basic condition was that the exhibition shouldn't be in the museum, but it should be in a particular place in Budapest. This is the so-called Moscow Square, which is a huge junction in every sense, so lots of public transportation ends and starts there. And even in another sense, you know, Budapest has a more urban part is flat. This is Pest, and a bit more green and richer part is Buda, and somehow this Moscow Square where these two areas with lots of people moving to trams, to subway and so on, moving around. And this is also the so-called flash market, or market for black workers, illegal workers. So they used to sit over there, and people can hire them. And I had a very simple idea that there is a caravan in the middle of the square, and what's written in Hungarian is time patrol, and if you can dictate by heart for 10 minutes, no question whatever, person one can make 4,000 forints, which is about equivalent to 20 euros. And the caravan was there for 6 weeks, and twice a week we did those sessions. And the text on the caravan ends. If you are curious what the others were dictating, you can buy the publication in the newsstand in the same square. So this is a very simple publication, and we put a relative high price. So the price of the Hungarian, let's say, Cosmopolitan or something. So it was 500 forints. And many important aspects of this work, but I would like to emphasize just one. When I had the idea, I had the concept that I have to make something like this, I was really concentrated that I want to documentate something no one is documenting. You know, something which is absolutely not interesting, not important for the present. Because if we look back, I mean, it would be extremely important, a random document of 20 years, 30 years ago. But the present cannot think, unfortunately, with the mind of the future. What will be interesting from the future from today? And it's, since a long time I'm doing projects concerning this. How can we treat the present as it would be or the past? So I think it's a very easy, very simple way to find a way in the present, to find the proper priorities. And the big surprise, very dramatic surprise, was that people came to dictate. Okay, the price was really fair, so it was not just give me your content and go away style of art. But they were absolutely moved by the opportunity that they can talk to someone, because lots of people, even here, but especially in Hungary, has no opportunity to talk to someone because they are homeless or illegal or somehow very low in that hypothetical ladder of the society. So it turned out that people started to talk automatically about their life. More precisely, the tragic of their life. So it was really very heavy to sitting in this stinking caravan because we borrowed it from a company. It was used beforehand, and there was very hot outside, and listening to that stories. And another interesting aspect that a couple of years later, a Croatian curator learned about this project and invited me and the project to Croatia. I did absolutely the same. I had to discuss that we really have to pay a fair amount of the people who are talking. And I don't know Croatian, but they told me that the result was somehow the same. People used the opportunity to speak about themselves. Originally, I thought this was my hypothesis that it will be something like automatic speech or free associations, a la Sigmund Freud, and people were bring up lots of nonsensical nonsense. Just in order to fill up this 10 minutes. And the next step in the story that a Serbian curator learned this Zagreb project and invited this whole thing to Serbia, Belgrade. And you know, Yugoslavia or the rest of Yugoslavia suffered with a very serious civil war, and the connection between the countries are still very delicate. So this was in Belgrade. Okay, this is a project I will talk a bit longer because it's again a very good example of how the context could change, even if I wouldn't say against the will of the artist, but without the influence of the artist. We are now in the early 2000s, and the wave of public art arrived to Hungary, and this new public art term is somehow connects art and politics. I guess that's why I'm here. Because the crisis means that people are losing their trust in institutions, in the financial institutions, in the politics, and art could work as the ultimate source of, I wouldn't say trust, but artists might be stupid, egocentric, eccentric, whatever, but they are not, I mean, per definition, not commerce, and not they don't want to do something particular like the commercial does. I mean, the commercial world does. And my idea was very simple. You can see it. You don't understand what's written there. It's written excuse, or excuse me. In Hungarian, it's just one word. This is this sorry or excuse me. Hopefully we use 1,000 times a day. There are some surveys which countries are using most and which countries are using less. Unfortunately, Europe, and especially Eastern Europe, belongs to those countries where you can't really hear this on an everyday basis. If you want to have this experience, you have to go to Japan. There is a much more common. So if you see it's really a very simple concept. It's the usual lettering and usual height, and everything is the usual as the so-called traffic signs. And the traffic signs we don't doubt in, because if there is a sign that next city is over there, 500 meters, we don't say that, okay, maybe not, or maybe yes, what should we do? But I would say because of this height. If we see an information in this height, like on the boardwalk or somewhere, we don't give a shit. It could be anything. And I wanted to disturb the usual way of thinking, because I think art and culture's biggest task is to lead the rest of the mankind into learn much more on lateral thinking. I mean, thinking in a different way. How does it go and how is it possible? And okay, I did it. It's a funny image because on the other side, this is the side of the Danube. The other side of the river is the Hungarian House of the Parliament. Maybe it's easier now. So, very quickly, here you see it in different locations in Hungary. This is one of my favorite. Maybe you are familiar with this UFO-like huge public lights. And in a Hungarian country town, which is rather conservative, and on the right side, you can see there's a huge church. I could put on this sign. And the reactions were really very, very kind. People started to laugh and think and how funny it is. And I got problems only when I started to use different languages. You know, this the method is very simple. There is a huge metal aluminium rod, and on both sides there is a panel with text. And in the first phase of this work, both sides there was in Hungarian. And in the second phase, I made, this is Slovakian, and the back side is Hungarian. And already with this piece I had problems. The deputy mayor of the city wanted to take it off, and wanted to close the whole exhibition, which was a part of this work. I mean, this work was a part of that exhibition. Saying, I mean, because he interpreted, why should we say, excuse me, to the Slovaks? He didn't think that on the other side there is in Hungarian. So if he follows this very awkward and very paranoid logic, it's a contradiction in the first step. So, and I was quite conscious about choosing this language because the Hungarian nationalists, they have problems with all the neighboring countries around Hungary, so it's a very bad situation, and Slovaks are one of the main targets. Here you see the backside in the Hungarian. This is again the Slovakian, but in Slovakia, capital city of Slovakia, Pozsony, Bratislava. There were some problems as well, and just after some difficulties could I put it out. Again, Slovakian, Hungarian. It's Romania, Marosvásárhely, Târgu-Mureș, where there is a huge number of Hungarian minorities. And when I arrived, because it was an exhibition of me, when I arrived by a car from the airport, people were just taking it back, because previously they took it off. And the organizers from the car, through his mobile phone, gave just some interview to some local radio station. And it was taken off because the official who ordered to taking it off came from one direction and could read just the Hungarian. But again, what if there is a Hungarian there? I exhibited this Romanian Hungarian in Budapest, in a huge show in the Kunsthalle. It's absolutely the center of the city. And again, you see, it's pretty high. It's about 6 meters high. And saying, excuse me, in Romanian, backside is the same in Hungarian. And, to put out such a sign requires a small truck with a crane, and it's a part of the cost. So I know exactly it's not for free. Actually it's not so cheap. And in one night, someone took it off. Someone hired a car, a truck, a special truck, went up, and with screwdrivers and wrenches dismantled and put it down. And this led to a strange situation, because it was around the end of the exhibition. We didn't want to spend money to put it out again in the same place, and we brought it into the exhibition space. And again, this is the point I wanted to make, that this context, I couldn't make as an artist. Because if I say that this thing should be exhibited as an art object, people can say absolutely rightly that I'm stupid, and it's a conceptual artwork. Who cares about? And why should it have seen and treated as an art object? But because of this, let's say, nationalist intervention in my action, it could be seen as a let's say, poor, humiliated industrial object. You can see all of those little scratches, whatever, but you can't really see from the original height.